Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, then welcome. My name's Kristina, and on my channel, we talk all things beauty from my own experiences. And today we're going to be talking about my everyday affordable makeup routine. These are going to be products that I typically use that are either from the drugstore or are typically lower in price point than anything, at Sephora or something that's more higher end. I definitely use a mixture of high end and affordable makeup all the time, but I don't necessarily do like an all affordable makeup routine. So I wanted to pull all of my favorites from the drugstore and from Ulta, put it into one look for you guys, and show you what we come out with. So to start off, I am already wearing a different primer because I am testing a different primer out before I go on my trip. But I want to show you guys a couple of my favorite drugstore primers. All of them are actually from e.l.f. If you're going for something a little bit more glowy, something that is going to give you slightly more of a coverage type of finish as well, I would definitely go with the e.l.f. Halo Glow Liquid Filter. This one is in the shade medium. I talk about this very often. It's definitely a dupe for the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless filter. This is incredible. I know that a lot of people like this way more than the Charlotte Tilbury one, and to be quite honest with you guys, whenever I have this in my collection, I don't really feel the need to have the Charlotte Tilbury one as well because I typically reach for this one more than I do for that. Next, we have two different primers from e.l.f. that do very different things for me. So we have the e.l.f. Liquid Putty Primer. This one, again, is going to be sort of like a dupe for the Tatcha Liquid Silk Canvas Primer, I think is what it's called. But this one really helps to minimize the look of the pores and kind of blur them, sort of fill them in as you're wearing makeup. It really helps to counteract any oils that my skin starts to create throughout the day. And then we also have the e.l.f. Jelly Pop Primer, but this one I would say is interchangeable with any of the e.l.f. Power Grip primers. Those and these are going to be more of a sticky base, something that works really well to adhere your foundation and concealer and all those things onto your skin. I will say that these are a little bit more finicky when it comes to pairing it with different foundations and concealers. Just make sure that you kind of test it out, see what works. You may find that sometimes this can be a little patchy, a little bit dry with some foundations. I would say put that foundation down, try out another one, maybe something with a little bit of a different finish, and see how it does with each other. So I will say this has worked better for me with some foundations more than others. I think with more dewy foundations, this does work really well. But those are typically the primers that I would just reach for without even thinking about if I'm doing more of an affordable look. All right, I want to start off with my brows. I typically do start with my brows, and both of these are actually from Maybelline. I've talked about these time and time again on my channel. And by the way, with this video, I'm trying to pull out more options than just my typical ones that I talk about all the time. I do find that I get very repetitive with the things I like, and I want to make sure that I give you guys recommendations that truly are tried and true products for me. So I'm giving you a little bit more options with this one, and hopefully you guys find it more helpful that way. But I'm using this Maybelline Super Lock Brow Glue. I did compare this to the Rare Beauty Flexible Brow Gel, and while I still think that this is a really great option, a more affordable option to the Rare Beauty Flexible Brow Gel, I do find that you have to work with this one just a little bit more. It is more wet than the Rare Beauty one is, but it's nothing like your average eyebrow gel. It definitely still has more of a waxy finish to it, but you do have to kind of let this dry down a little bit more before going in with your other brow products. And it does dry down a little more crunchy, but still, I think it gives me the same effect. And I think it gives me the same hold as well. And now I'm just going to go in with my Maybelline Build-A-Brow. This is in the shade Brown Black or Black Brown, one of those. But I'm just going to fill in those sparse areas. And I like to go in with this before that brow glue is fully set and dry. Because this does have a really good hold, it kind of just stays exactly where you need it to stay. And in saying that, if you have to put this pen in your brows and then like brush it out at all, it does kind of break up that gel. So you want to work with it while it's still a little bit damp. So I'm just going to do very minimal filling here, mainly just those sparse areas and the tail end of my brows. Oh, I had like silver flecks in my brows. What is that? Oh my gosh. This is like falling apart, you guys. I'm getting like little specks of the product packaging on my hands. Do you see that? I have like silver on there. Oh no, is it time to get a new one? I think it might be. Okay, if you guys see little silver flecks on my face, please, please forgive me. Please ignore that. I'm going to buy a new one of these because I didn't realize this was like coming apart. Okay, I have a couple of options for foundations here. So I've talked about this so many times, so I'm not going to be using this one today, but I wanted to mention it because this is probably my most used foundation from the drugstore currently, and it is the Maybelline Superstay Skin Tint in the shade number 220. This is just an incredible foundation. If you want to learn more about this, I do have a full dedicated review, as well as a couple of other videos where I talk about it, but it has great staying power, great coverage, and overall, this is like the finish that I love. It's more of that natural radiance, sort of dewy type of finish when it comes to a foundation. And then I also have two other ones. I think I've spoken about this one on my channel. This is the Makeup Revolution Skin Silk Luminous Serum Foundation in the shade F10. This is an incredible foundation if you're looking for something that will give you kind of like a soft matte finish. I have heard people compare this foundation to this one from Laura Mercier, the Real Flawless Weightless Perfecting Foundation. They are quite similar in finish. I will say that they both give you kind of that soft matte radiance type of finish. You can get a little bit more matte with this if you're someone like me that does really enjoy a dewy look, but sometimes wants a little bit more mattifying properties. This is great because it doesn't completely like dry out the skin, make it look super, super matte, you know? So I really like this one when I want to go for an actual like foundation type of coverage. But if I want another skin tint, this one from Wet n Wild is actually really nice. This is the Bare Focus Niacinamide Skin Tint, and I have this in the shade Cream Beige. I don't think that this is a perfect match for me. However, it is the closest one at the drugstore for me. I got this one at Walgreens. I haven't really seen it anywhere else. Maybe it's like Walgreens, CVS, possibly Target and Walmart, but they're really great. This one is going to be more of that dewy finish, and it's not going to have as much coverage as the Makeup Forever one, but I do want a little bit more coverage than what the Wet n Wild one will give me. So just for comparison's sake, here is the Makeup Revolution one right here, and then we have the Wet n Wild right there. As you can see, the Makeup Revolution is giving a lot more coverage, and the finish, because they're still wet, it still looks like it's more of a hydrating finish, but whenever you get it onto the skin and it dries down, it does become a lot more like matte finish. And right here, you can see the Wet n Wild is going to be a thinner formula. It's not going to give you as much coverage, but for an everyday type of basis, whenever I want to go for something lighter weight, the Wet n Wild one is a great option. Maybe if I'm looking to do most of my coverage with my concealers and stuff, this is really nice as well. But you can build this up. It does get slightly greasy if you do like more than 2 layers of the skin tint, but all that to say, it's a really, really great skin tint, don't get me wrong. It just depends on whatever coverage you're looking for that day, you know? For me today, I kind of want to go for something with a little bit more coverage, so we are going to go in with the Makeup Revolution one. And I'm just going to take this on the back of my hand. I'm pretty sure that one pump is like plenty for me. Now, this shade, again, is not going to be my perfect match. I do find that it's slightly warm for my skin tone, at least the last time I used it. Now it might be a little bit light. I don't know. We will see. I'm just kind of applying this starting at the outside perimeter of my face and then working my way in. I do want to do most of my covering of like my acne scarring and my hyperpigmentation with my concealer. So this is just going to start us off with like an even canvas, you know. I have this little pimple guy paying me a visit, so I'm just going to go around it, try to cover it very lightly. This is actually looking like it's a pretty good match. If anything, right now it's a little bit light for me, but I think I can still make it work. And I'm just taking a damp sponge to just press in the rest of that product and then like get rid of any excess product that might be on my face that's not getting absorbed into the skin, you know? This shade match is pretty good, but it does look slightly pink on my skin tone. Does that mean it's too cool? I think that's what that means. But I don't know if you guys can tell now that it's all over my face. So that's the only downfall with a lot of like drugstore makeup is that the shade range typically isn't the best. So if you can find your shade, it's great. But sometimes you kind of have to like mix two shades and it makes it, you know, more expensive that way. I don't know. Next, we're going to go in with concealer, and my favorite concealer currently from the drugstore is the L'Oreal True Match Radiant Serum Concealer. I have this in the shade N5, and it's slightly lighter for my skin tone, but I actually like that. It kind of like brightens up the skin. It has this really cool applicator where it's kind of like a paddle, and it's angled as well, so you can cover a lot of area with this applicator. It does have a slight like chemical type of scent to it, and it's noticeable when you're applying it, but it's not noticeable once it's like blended out onto your skin, so don't worry about that. It's never really irritated my skin. But I'm just going to take this pretty much all over the areas that I typically brighten. I wouldn't use this shade specifically to conceal to make it like match my skin tone. This is definitely more of a brightening concealer for me. And then I'm just going to blend that out. I have this BK Beauty Nikki LaRose N16 brush. It's a really great brush for concealer and like color corrector and stuff. So I'm just going to take this with a really light hand and blend it out onto the skin. I like this concealer because it does have a really great coverage, but it feels very, very thin, similar to the L'Oreal Serum Skin Tint. Like it has that same sort of finish, or that same texture rather, where it feels more like a skincare product, like a skincare serum versus like actual colored pigmented makeup, you know? It blends so well, as you can see. It doesn't like get patchy or dry down on the skin before you can get to it, before you can blend it out. And I feel like it actually holds on to a lot of the pigment. So it actually gives you really good coverage. As you can see right there, all of like my dark areas and even a lot of like my freckling and hyperpigmentation has been covered for the most part. You can still see it if you really look at my skin. And I don't necessarily mind that. I feel like it just makes the skin look less cakey. It makes it look a little bit more natural, you know? And I'm gonna do the same thing here. We'll see if this concealer will cover up that spot. It'll cover up the discoloration for sure, but because it is a raised spot, there's really not much a concealer can do for that. At least not a lighter brightening concealer like this one. So I'm pretty happy with this, but I think I'm just going to go in with another like half layer right here. Let it set down and dry for a couple seconds before I actually go in and blend it out. Because it is more of that serum like consistency, it does require you to like let it set down and dry a little bit more if you're looking for like the best pigmentation, the best coverage you can from this. I've also blended this out with my fingers before, and I find that that gives me really natural, very nice coverage as well. Before we move on to our blushes and bronzers, I want to go ahead and start on the eyes. I'm going to start by priming my eyes with this Ulta Matte Eye Primer. And Ulta Beauty recently, I guess, revamped their collection, and I haven't seen this primer in their collection since. Maybe they're still working on it, maybe they discontinued it, I'm not sure, but this is the one that I've been using these last couple of months, and I do really like it. I still do get a little bit of creasing on the inner portion of my eyes, like right in this area, but it's definitely helped a lot more. Like I don't have nearly as much creasing as I used to with like other primers. And for my eyeshadow today, I'm actually going to be using this eyeshadow stick from Maybelline. It's the Color Tattoo shadow stick in the shade 24 I Am Determined. It's just a matte milk chocolate type of brown. Let me show you guys. It's beautiful. These stay all day too. Once you like blend them out and they dry down, they really do stay in place. I like these shadow sticks a lot. Like they are very comparable to like my nude sticks, shadow sticks. Recently, I have been using this just to do like a winged liner and then smoking it out. So it's very, very subtle. Almost doesn't look like a structured winged liner, but like from far away, it kind of like gives you that angle. You know what I mean? I consider doing that today. I might still do that today, but I also want to show you guys these Ulta Beauty bouncy eyeshadows. I'm sure that you have seen these. These kind of had a moment online. I have the shades Champagne Sorbet and Italian Ice. Essentially, they are these pressed pigments, but they do have a little bit of that like creamy bouncy consistency. They're very, very fragile though. Like pretty much every one that you can purchase at the store are broken or they're no longer in their pan. This one surprisingly is still in the pan. It's like one of the only ones. This is the shade Italian Ice. I don't know which one I'm gonna go for. Oh, you can see when I put that down, look, it's like out of the pan, but it still works. It's not dried out or anything. But let me show you guys some swatches. They're very, very soft, very creamy, and they don't give you a ton of like base pigmentation. I think that these are great to top your eyeshadows. So that first one was Champagne Sorbet, and the second one is Italian Ice. So beautiful. They are so nice and shiny. They're not metallic, they're not glittery. They literally are just like this beautiful sheen. So again, we have Italian Ice right here and then Champagne Sorbet right there. I don't know which one I want to use today. Maybe we'll use a combination of both. Maybe we'll just use one. I don't know. I'm kind of leaning towards Italian Ice just because I feel like it'll go really well with that shadow stick. So we'll see where this takes us. I'm just going to take this on a tiny little brush. I typically would use a different brush, but I packed a bunch of my brushes for my trip, so this Merit one hopefully will do well. Yeah, I'm going to take this on the outer corner and just blend it in ever so slightly just to add dimension to the eyes, you know? And I'm pretty messy with this. I just kind of blend it out until we don't see any harsh lines or anything like that. These also have pretty good lasting power even without an eye primer, by the way. I always use eye primer, but sometimes with cream shadows and sometimes with like stick eyeshadows, I don't find that it's necessary. These will work just fine without it, but I went ahead and primed the eyes because we are going to be using these Ulta Bouncy shadows, and those will definitely crease on their own. Okay, I'm actually just taking this other side of that same Merit brush, and I'm creating a little bit of a wing with that shadow stick. Nothing too serious. Just to add a little bit of like dimension to the eyes, I guess. All right, just a little bit of something. It's not great, but we're just gonna see how this goes. We're gonna trust the process here, but I'm gonna take the Ulta Bouncy eyeshadow in the shade Italian Ice actually, and I'm just gonna use this to top that shadow stick. Look, so pretty. This reminds me a lot of the Hourglass Scattered Lights, except this one is creamy while that one is mainly just like loose pigment, you know? And this is not as like glittery because like I said, this does have more of a sheen versus like glitter effect, but it's really beautiful. And these go on sale often, I think. Like whenever Ulta Beauty collection goes on sale, these are typically included. They're very nice. The only thing is I would definitely recommend buying them in store whenever they're available so you can like pick out the ones that aren't broken. There we are. And then I am going to curl my lashes. I just have my Shiseido eyelash curler. I refuse to use anything else. Except I have been very curious about the Surat eyelash curler. I keep hearing great things about it. I should have picked it up when it was on sale, but I did not. Okay, and one of my favorite drugstore mascaras recently, or for a while now actually, has been the L'Oreal Telescopic Lift Mascara, specifically the waterproof one, because you guys know I have to use a waterproof mascara in order to keep my lashes up. It's just kind of the way that my lashes work. So I'm just going to run this through my lashes, and then once we finish that first coat, we'll go ahead and move on to the rest of the complexion while we let that mascara dry for a second coat. Most likely. Most likely going to go in with a second coat. This is actually a fresh tube. My other one recently dried out. So I just cracked this open today. It just adds so much really nice length to the lashes. And this brush isn't typically one that I'm like diehard fan of, but I do feel like the bristles are separated enough and long enough to where they really separate out the lashes and they don't get clumpy. So it works incredibly well with this sort of wetter formula, at least when you first open it. It does dry down to a really nice formula. All right, we're gonna let that dry and let's move on to the blushes and bronzers. So I have a couple of bronzers that I really quite enjoy from the drugstore. We have the Maybelline and the e.l.f. one. First of all, we have the e.l.f. Putty Bronzer. This is in the shade Golden Days, and I wasn't using this for a long time, but then I grabbed it out of my collection a couple of weeks ago, and I forgot just how beautiful this bronzer is. Mine is slightly dried out, but when you first get it, it's nice and creamy. It really has great pigmentation. It does feel slightly greasy when you first like dip your finger in there and you take a swatch. And it does have a little bit of a slip to it, but I will say that if you give it a second to dry down on the skin, it does end up looking really nice. It doesn't dry down to a matte finish, but it does have less of a like greasy, slippery feeling. But another one that I really like is the Milani Spilling Tea Cheek Kiss Bronzer. This go-to for sure. Like I could not put this down for quite a while. So this is the Milani one. This is the e.l.f. one. The e.l.f. one does look like it is slightly more on that yellowy, warmer tone, while this one does pull a little bit more neutral, but both of them are still definitely a bronzer to me, not a contour. I like both of them pretty much equally, to be honest. This one does have a very similar look and feel to the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Skin Enhancer, which is a really beautiful, very light veil of bronze on the skin. This gives that same effect. So if you want something for an all over bronze that you can use to kind of like build up on the skin, this will be a really great option for you. But if you want something that's going to be a little bit heavier on the pigmentation right off the bat and might be, I don't know, I feel like these kind of both dry down a little bit powdery. So I wouldn't say one of them looks more dewy than the other. I really feel like they're similar. So I guess again, it is just like your preference. I have been using this one a lot, just like in everyday use as well as in videos. So I thought that I would go ahead and use my e.l.f. Putty Bronzer with you guys here because I don't remember the last time that I used it on camera. So I'm just going to take this Sigma Precision Powder F08 brush. I love this for cream products like my cream bronzers, my cream blushes. It has such good blendability to it. And as you can see, this works really nicely on my skin tone. I feel like e.l.f. has a lot of great tones when it comes to the putty bronzer. I think that they can use a shade extension. I think if they did that, a lot of people would be really happy because a lot of people do like this formula. So I would like to see that happen. But I like to use this just to warm up the face a little bit, and then if I go in with like contour, I'll deepen up the bronze on that side. But it's also a really small jar. Not saying that there's not a lot of product, but it's small, so it's easy to like store and it's easy to travel with. I've never had an issue with it. I really do enjoy this product, and I forgot how much I liked it for a long time. Someone said in a video recently, they're like, "What is on your forehead? It's so dark. It does not look good on you." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I mean, granted, yes, they're probably right. I did have bronzer on my forehead, but also my forehead's just like naturally darker than the rest of my face. I didn't really know what to say. I just thought that was funny. The way they were like, no, not cute. Trying to avoid that pimple, but it's kind of hard because it's like my line of fire for bronzer. Should I use this to kind of contour my nose? I have this Morphe V105 brush. Just gonna use this to kind of contour. I'm sweating, so my nose is sweaty. We'll see if this actually sticks to my nose. So for blush, I do have a couple of options for you guys. Again, we do have the Milani Cheek Kiss. This is in the shade 110 Nude Kiss. This is more of, to me, like sort of a rosy, like more saturated pink shade right here. And we also have the About Face Cheek Freak Blush Balm in the shade Raunchy. These are very, very nice. They're definitely a drier cream formula, which is great if you have oily skin like I do. They kind of just like set down onto the skin. And I like this shade. It is a little bit more on the orangey side, but on my skin tone, when I have a tan, it does look a lot more natural on my skin. And then of course, we have to talk about the e.l.f. Camo Liquid Blushes. These are incredible. I have a handful of these. They really are great quality. They're a really nice liquid blush. My favorites are the shades Suave Mauve and the shade Dusty Rosé. A little bit of this does go a really long way. I honestly cannot remember my thoughts on a comparison between the Rare Beauty one and these. I do have a video on it though, so check that out if you want to see my thoughts. But this is Suave Mauve, and when you blend these out, they are definitely a lot more wearable than you would anticipate they are based on like a little swatch, like a little dot, you know? So Suave Mauve and Dusty Rose, I think both of these equally look incredible on the skin. And another liquid blush from Juvia's Place. This is the shade Rosy Posy, and it looks very intimidating in the tube here, but this is one of those like lighter pinky shades that I actually feel like translates really nicely on my skin tone whenever I blend it out. It does turn a little bit like, as you can see right there, a little bit more purpley on my skin, and it just works. Like this one is going to be more matte in my opinion than the e.l.f. ones. The e.l.f. ones do have a little bit of hydration to them even after you blend them out, and they do take a little bit longer to set down than the Juvia's Place one does. The Milani one is going to be the most like hydrated of the bunch, that one being the cream one. And then again, the About Face one here, it already has sort of dried down to more of a powder finish. So those are my options from the drugstore, the ones that I typically reach for. Now, which one do I want to use on camera today? I don't know. Maybe we'll do a little mixture. Okay, we'll do the Milani and the e.l.f. do like a little ombre look because I've never mixed these two together. So we'll see what it looks like. Going in first with the Milani towards like the back part closer to my temple. And again, this is in the shade Nude Kiss. I'm taking a BK Nikki LaRose N17 brush, and these are quite pigmented. I do find that the blushes are a lot more pigmented than the bronzers. I feel like I can be a little heavier handed when it comes to the bronzers, but that also depends on the shade that you pick, because when I first picked up the Milani bronzer, I did pick up a shade darker than the one that I showed you guys, and I just found that was way too dark and pigmented. So be warned. But I think all of the cream blushes from Milani are consistently pigmented, so the darker ones are just as pigmented as the lighter ones and vice versa. These are very beautiful. Look at that flush. It just gives sort of a sunburnt look on the cheeks, at least for my complexion they do, and it doesn't take away any of the coverage that we have going on here on the cheeks. And for any of the liquid blushes, whether they're like drugstore or high end, I like to take them on the back of my hand just because I find that I get a lot more control on how much I pick up, and I can kind of see like the pigmentation that I need to anticipate on the face. So I'm just taking this closer to the center of my face. Ooh, that's really pretty. I like those two together. It's very easy to go overboard when it comes to cream and liquid blushes. Blush blindness, am I right? But we're trying to be careful here. And I want to keep in mind, whenever I powder down my face, my blushes do tend to get a little stamped out. They do become a little more subtle. So at this stage, I think it is okay to be a little heavy-handed on the blush, at least if you're going to be setting your face down like I do. But also, if you want to go heavy-handed and keep it like that, do you. It is your face. It is just makeup. We're just having fun. All right, now we're going to set down the face. And while I think that this one might be expired, we're still going to use it. Hopefully it doesn't break me out. This is the e.l.f. Halo Glow Setting Powder. This is probably one of my favorite loose setting powders from the drugstore. I have tried the Maybelline loose setting powder a couple of times actually, and I feel like the shades just don't work for me. Like the light is way too light, and then the medium is still too dark for my skin. It is a good setting powder, but I think maybe it's a better finishing powder. I don't know. If you guys have any loose setting powder recommendations for me, let me know in the comments down below. But today we are going to be using this e.l.f. one. I think that this is in the shade medium. Yeah, this is the shade medium. And I really like that the sifter is like closed off by this little sliding door thing. So you're able to keep it very clean. And I'm going to take this Real Techniques double-sided sponge puff thing, and we're taking the pink side right here. And I don't know if I've actually ever used this. I've had this for a long time, you guys, but I don't know. Have I used it before? I'm going to stamp out that concealer. This concealer definitely needs to be set because it is more on that hydrating, thin, serum-y consistency side. So definitely stamp her out and then set it down. Going to press the powder so it really gets in there. I think I could get away with the shade Light in this one, but for the most part, I think I am definitely more on the medium side. This is nice, but it's very stiff. I like to kind of like bend mine and maneuver it so it's like small, like a finger, but this is kind of difficult. I wanted to use an affordable option for you guys though, versus my usual beauty blender one. I saw people talking about doing this like rolling technique to really fill in the pores and like blur your skin. I don't know if it's just me, but it's really hard for me to do the rolling motion without swiping all over my face. Right, and I'm just gonna take it all over the skin, anywhere I tend to get very greasy throughout the day. All right, and then to wipe away that bake and to kind of set the rest of the face, we are going to be using this from Sephora collection. This isn't technically drugstore, but I would consider this being drugstore price. I think it's priced anywhere between $12 to $14. This is the Sephora Micro Smooth Multitasking Baked Face Powder. I have this in the shade 33 Honey, and I'm going to use this again to kind of like wipe away that bake. I find this is a really nice finishing powder. Baked powders, I think, are a nice formulation for finishing powders because there's something about them that make them sit lighter on the skin, thus making it better to kind of work with the finish of the skin rather than like setting down your creams and liquids and foundations and stuff like that. I just feel like they're thinner almost. They're so micro finely milled. This is another one that I've had in my collection for a long time, and I'm hoping it doesn't break me out because it's probably expired. But I'm going to take this all over the face really lightly, dusting it over that blush and bronzer too, so we can set it down. And this is a great powder. It legit makes your skin look so smooth and airbrushed, but it doesn't take away any of like the dew or shine that you may want. Like right here on the tops of my cheeks, I feel like I still look very naturally healthy and dewy, but I know that my makeup is actually going to stay on my face because I'm setting it down. And then I do want to go in with a powder bronzer. Of course, you guys, I have to use the NYX Buttermelt Bronzer. This is in the shade number 3, Deserve Butter. It's just incredible. I've talked about this time and time and time and time again, so I'm not going to go on and on about it, but this is going to be a cooler bronzer, so I'm going to use it sort of as like a bronzer contour on the face, so I'm going to be very sparing with this. And it's very dusty, so you want to make sure that you tap out your brush or you do this little motion before going in on the face because you can easily get too much product. It does have a scent too. Smells sweet. And I find that this kind of bridges the gap between blush and my cream bronzer. Like it brings it together because it is more on that rosy, cooler tone side. So it helps to transition my warmer bronzers to like whatever blush I'm using. It's just really nice. All right, lastly, we have the lips, and I knew that I wanted to feature these two. So we have the new NYX Lifter Liner. This is in the shade Let's Bounce. I also have these shades in the shade Player and the shade Big Lift, but I think that I want to use Let's Bounce today. And I'm going to top it with one of the newer NYX Fat Oils in the shade Splash of Cream. They recently expanded their line and they came out with more neutral, creamy shades, so nothing that has glitter, and I am living for them. They are beautiful, beautiful. So I'm going to line the lips here with Let's Bounce. These are so creamy. They dry down quite quickly, so you're going to want to do section by section if you are planning on like blending it out, And they last so long on the lips. So here is that shade in a Splash of Cream. I don't think that these are great for like a lip oil treatment. I do think that the NYX lip oils are great as like a finishing lip color, lip look, And it's a great alternative for a lip gloss because they're not sticky at all. They feel really nice and slick, like what you would expect a lip oil to feel like. I love this expansion of shades. They are so much more like my preference. And I don't have a setting spray actually that I use from the drugstore. I'm going to be honest. I know that there are a lot of good ones from the drugstore. You guys let me know in the comments down below what your favorites are. Maybe recommend them to anyone that's watching this video looking for a recommendation. But I wanted to be 100% honest with you guys. I don't really use any setting sprays that I would consider like drugstore or affordable. Mainly, I like to use my one size setting spray. Oh, there is the L'Oreal Infallible setting spray, the one that is similar where it's like a hairspray type of thing. But honestly, I don't know if that works as good as the one size one, and I never really reach for it, so I wouldn't consider it as like my everyday affordable makeup type of thing. So I'm just going to skip that part. Alrighty, guys, this is the finished makeup look. Usually, what I like to do is go a little bit more dewy, start off slightly more matte, so throughout the day, my oils can kind of shine through, do their thing without becoming too greasy. I feel like all the products that I use today do help me achieve that look, and I really enjoy all of these products. They are so well done. The formulations are just so great. And I feel like there are so many good options for affordable makeup, especially now. There are so many products that are just, the quality is incredible. Now, with all that said, drugstore prices I have noticed have increased a lot because naturally inflation, but I'm glad to see that even the quality with that price increase has not gone down. Like, I think the quality is steadily progressing into something even better as well. So this is what I came up with. I hope that you guys liked it. Please let me know what your favorite product was that I used today in this video. I don't even know what my favorite is because, like I said, these are like my favorite drugstore affordable makeup products. So I think all of these are just incredible. I love giving you guys more options, and showing you more products that I really enjoy. So, as always, I'll have these products linked down below for you guys in the description box as well as in the YouTube shopping tab. I do earn a commission whenever you guys shop through either of those sections, and I really appreciate when you guys do shop through it because it does help support me and my channel. But if you don't, please do not feel obligated to do it. I just really appreciate the support. I hope that you guys also enjoyed this video. I hope that you found it helpful. And if you did, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this one. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.